The recording. Welcome to the week one go-to session. This is the first of 4 such sessions we are going to be having this month, thanks to those who are in attendance. Obviously, these sessions are recorded. Maybe I shouldn't say obviously. Maybe people don't know that. Okay, you should be able to see my screen. So just in case people are confused, the people here who are live are obviously watching this session now, but you may need to go back and watch parts of this lecture, or maybe in a future week you won't be able to attend live. So the archive is always included in this guy here, okay? It's always the point 2 activity. Right, so the 1.2, next week it's the 2.2, and it's even labeled, okay? Lecture archive. And if you scroll down, there's also other things like what your assigned reading is for the week. But if you scroll down, the video will be inserted, or it will be in the instructions. Okay, so you can just click on it there. If anybody experiences problems with the video, I always provide an alternate link to YouTube, so you can watch it there if you have problems with playback. But yeah, all the sessions are recorded. I guess maybe I'm going to do this kind of feelingly, like I do have a presentation. But let me just kind of make some general comments first. First of all, how many people here, well, obviously you're signed up for the lecture, okay? Because this guy, the lecture registration activity, contains the link. But how about Mcgraw-Hill and Turnitin? Everybody signed up over there among the people who are present here? Any issues with Mcgraw-Hill, Turnitin? Yes, we're all signed up. No, we're not. Let me go into Turnitin real quickly. Okay, Josh says not yet. Turnitin is a snap. I always think we should seriously limit these instructions, because all you need is right here, and you can see it's instructions. All you need to do is go to turnitin.com, and you need this guy here, the class ID, and then you need it's kind of like the password. They call it an enrollment key, which is just Thanksgiving. Okay, one word, all lowercase. So you just need these 2 pieces of information, and you signed up at Turnitin. All the major assignments need to be submitted to turnitin.com. In week 4, there's a peer review activity, which is handled completely through Turnitin. So yeah, you need to get signed up over there. Mason said, slightly confused with Mcgraw-Hill. Slightly confused with sign up, or slightly confused about what you need to do over there? Or both? Here, let me go back into... Okay, so Mcgraw-Hill. Same deal. You have a video you can watch that I recommend watching. But mostly you have this link here. And if you click on it, here, let me get rid of the Mcgraw-Hill that I already have open. Okay, so if I click on this guy, you tried to sign up, but you never got to an actual book. But you did sign up, okay? By the way, when you click on this link, right, I just showed it, this guy here, it should take you to a page that looks like this, and you should see my name. You should see the current month, November. I know we're still in October. Actually, this class will be over by like mid-November, so it's kind of weird. But no, we're technically in the November month. Okay, so this makes sure that you're in the right place, and then you just have to follow steps. Enter your email, okay, and then click begin, and sign up should be a snap. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hang out here at Mcgraw-Hill and show you some things. Okay. By the way, let me go back to the main menu. So you have all these getting started activities. So make sure that you read through them, get signed up for what you need to get signed up for. And then week 1 through 3 follows a pretty familiar setup. You always have an overview activity. You always have this guy here. And actually, this is what I'm talking about. If you go here, it lists the readings you have to read. But I'm going to show you how Mcgraw-Hill already has things organized. Like, you don't even have to go in here to figure out what the readings are. Every week you have to write a journal response. So let me talk about that, because this is important. Okay, so every week you have a journal response. The word journal makes you think like, okay, maybe I just have to share my personal thoughts. I don't mind if you do that, but the assignment is actually much... And I have the important stuff highlighted in yellow. Okay, and every week it says basically the same thing. Using quotes and or concepts from this week's reading as well as the week's lecture. Explain your understanding of the concepts. And then I say, Think of the journal entry as an informal quiz. I need to see strong evidence that the readings were completed and the lecture was attended or watched. Okay, and then I say I recommend writing 2 paragraphs, one that summarizes the reading, one that summarizes the lecture. Really, these should be easy A's for you. The class that I just wrapped up with last month, really, it's me just going in and putting in mostly 100s because that's how I treat this. Like, I just want proof that you attended or watched the lecture and that you completed the readings. Okay? And hold on, I got something. I got a popcorn shell in my mouth. um, they're both important. The lectures are more important because I promise you, and it's a good sign. These actually now 7 people are here for the lecture. People who attend or watch lectures do just fine in this class. Last month, I gave out more A's and B's than I've ever given out in my life. Why? Because everybody was watching the lectures. And if you watch the lectures, you're not going to be confused because I always walk through every assignment. I explain every assignment carefully. I explain what needs to be done. In some ways, this is a pretty formulaic class, meaning if you do the work and you pay attention to what's covered in the lectures, I don't see how you don't get an A or a B. I mean, really, unless you miss assignments. It's not a difficult class. I mean, there's a lot to do, okay? And there are assignments that will take time, but it's not difficult in the sense that it's unpredictable. It's not difficult in the sense that it's so highly subjective. Well, it's just Mr. Sussman's opinion. He's going to be grading my work. No, like, here, let me open up. Actually, I'm going to show this in a second because I want to show an example of a journal. But let me first just get back into. Okay, so this is from last month, but it's the same thing. Okay, exact same setup as your class. Like 45% of this class is gimme points. So you have a professionalism grade. This gets graded at the end of the month. It's worth 10%. I really don't take off professionalism points unless you miss assignments, do something egregious, like, I don't know, curse at me or tell off a former fellow classmate. Like, you have to do something just beyond the pale. There might be deductions for things like not following instructions, but I mean like not following instructions at all. You hand in an assignment that just looks like it came from a completely different class. So yeah, there might be deductions for that, but mostly I just record some form of an A. So that's 10% in your back pocket. These journal responses, weekly journal responses, which I'm discussing now, they're worth 5%. So that's 20% total. Okay. You also have these achieve modules. These are done over at Mcgraw-Hill. I'm going to actually show those in real time. Yeah, when you add it all up, it's like 45% that should be totally in your back pocket in A. And when nearly half your grade is an A, you can fail the other half and still get a C. Now, I don't recommend doing that. But you see my point, okay? It should not be that difficult to pass. And it's a good sign that, oh, we got another person here. Cassandra has just entered the room. Yeah, the 8 people who are here, that's a good sign because, yeah, people watch lectures, attend lectures, do just fine. Okay, so I was talking about the weekly journal. Yeah, it's like a quiz. I just want proof that you did the readings and that you watched the lecture. The lectures are more important. I'm not saying the readings are unimportant, but the readings, they're pretty... Here, let me show them. Okay, so I'm logged in. Let's go into our class. I'm going to go into the student view. And first I'm going to show the readings and I'm going to show the achieve modules. And as you can see, once you're in, and Mason, I don't know if this answers your question or not, but you don't even need to go into this book, Writing Matters. Everything is already organized for you here. Okay, so you have 3 achieve modules. These are interactive modules you need to complete, 1 per week. Okay, I'm going to show those in just a moment. The reading is broken down for you by week as well. So if we go into week 1, and you just click on this little guy here, this arrow, click begin. And what did it say? 32 pages or 29 pages? Okay, so, here's a page. They're all pretty short. You never have to read or do the things that are in the green boxes. So if ever recommends actually doing something, you don't have to do it. You just have to read. And then we can go through it. Okay. Lots of pictures. Okay. So even though it might seem like a lot, it's not that much. I'm also fine with occasional skimming or reading for gist. Okay. Don't just skim. Like the writer's responsibilities, done. Planning your project, done. But yeah, I mean, get through it somewhat quickly if you need to, but come away with the main ideas, okay? Because in this weekly journal, you need to prove that you've done the reading and you've watched the lecture. This is why I recommend writing 2 paragraphs. And here's an example. Okay, so this is from last month. This is what his journal looks like. Okay, for week 1, here's his paragraph where he summarizes the reading. Here's the paragraph where he summarizes the lecture. Now, maybe not every student writes this much. There's students who write more. But I would say 2 paragraphs that are kind of this length is common. Just prove to me that you've done the work, okay? You prove to me you've done the reading, watch the lecture. I am more than happy to stamp a perfect 100, like I've done with this guy here, for you as well. Okay, so this should not be a difficult task. Actually, let me get out of this. Okay, so that's the weekly journal. Just prove to me that you've done the stuff. You also have, for the first 3 weeks, these Achieve modules. These are also through Mcgraw-Hill. Okay, so you have readings, but you also have these interactive modules, also organized by week. So I'm going to go into the week 1 module, click begin, and I'm going to show you how it works. I'll even answer a few questions and cross my fingers that I don't get them wrong. Cassandra, no, we don't have a class discussion board. I used to have it, but lots of times so few students would use it that, okay, so for some reason it's on the help, but I think, yeah, I'm going to go to the assignments. And you can set up a schedule. So we'll ask you, like, actually, it looks like I already started one, so it doesn't, but it will ask you, like, how many days do you want to work on the Achieve module, for how long a time. You can actually skip through that if you want. You can do it in one sitting. But once you're in the module, I'm just going to click OK. Oh, here it is. Okay, here's where you choose, right? You can decide to answer 4 questions in a row correctly, or you could just, I'm going to jump into complete the assignment. Okay, so mostly it's grammar. Okay, so which sentences are indirect questions that should end in a period? Check all that apply. I texted Tamara to find out when that's not a question. The teacher asked the students whether they had done the reading. That's a question. Indirect questions that should end in a period. Well, that's one. Have you started studying for the test yet? Well, that wouldn't end in a period. That would end in a question mark because it's an actual question. Where's the study group meeting this week? Well, that's also a question that would require a question mark. I guess this one too, right? I texted Tamara to find out when she would arrive. Okay, so both of these indirect questions, meaning there's a question in there, but it's not a direct question that would require a question mark. Yeah, thank you, Cassandra. See, you spotted it before I did. I was like, no, that's not it. So you can answer how sure you are. I'm going to say think so. Yay, correct. You see this bar down here? So click OK, and we're at 2%. Drag each sentence to the correct category based on whether it is a correctly written exclamatory sentence or requires rewriting as another sentence type. Okay, when did Stanley dust the ceiling fan? I'm going to say it requires rewriting. Basically, it's answering, do these sentences require an exclamation mark? Exclamation point, excuse me. I have to admit, some of these sentences are confusing. Like, why are you watching this movie? I think that requires... Like, I'm putting when did Stanley dust the ceiling fan here, that it requires rewriting, because that doesn't seem like something that would require an exclamation point. But maybe they're saying that's grammatically correct, so it belongs over here. So congratulations to your new baby. I could picture a exclamation point being used there. Should I buy milk tomorrow? No, that requires a question mark. That goes here. That medicine tastes terrible. Yeah, that feels like it needs. And surprise. Okay. So I'm going to say, I think so. It needs a question mark in front of the exclamation for the movie one. What movie one? Oh, okay. Right. But that's why I put it here. It requires rewriting because it should be a question mark, not an exclamation point. And same thing here, right? I don't even have to determine. Yeah, I see what you're saying, Cassandra. The first one, right? It's wrong to begin with because you wouldn't. It's an actual question. See, Cassandra's doing better than I am. She's pointing out things that I'm missing. So yeah, I don't even have to determine whether it's worthy of an exclamation point or not because it requires a question mark. So I know it. Cassandra knows it. Correct. See, we're up to 4%. I'll answer one more, because if not, I'm doing them all for you. Choose a sentence that correctly uses an apostrophe to show possession. After we looked at Ron's car, we will know whether we can fix it or not. That's correct. After we looked at Ron's car, no, that's incorrect. After we look at Ron's car, we will know whether we can fix it or not. Oh, I see. After this one, the apostrophe is after the S. Okay, so it's this one. Okay, that one's incorrect. So I know it's okay. Yeah, we're up to 6%. I'm going to stop, because if not, I'm doing it all for you. But if you answer a question incorrectly, you just have to kind of learn which one's the right answer, because it will pop up again. Your job is to get to 100%. If you get 100%, I record 100. But let's say you only get to 78%, then I record a 78. Okay, but this should be easy points. By the way, Mason, does this help you understand what you need to do over at Mcgraw-Hill, both in terms of the readings and the Achieve module? Because again, everything's already organized for you. Achieve modules in this folder here, organized by week. Readings organized here. So you need to go through both. And in the journal activity, just write 2 paragraphs summarizing this lecture you're attending and summarizing the reading, and you have to complete those Achieve modules. Again, that's 10% that should be in your back pocket. Okay, so let's see. Like I said, I'm kind of making things up because I'm supposed to be using the presentation slides, but what else should I say? I think most students know this. If you need to send me a message, do so through the FSL platform. I say this because every so often I get like emails, but sometimes I'm so swamped with grading or other things that I may not check email that day. I feel bad because I'm supposed to, but I'm so used to students not sending me traditional emails. Yeah, the fastest way to reach me is through the FSO platform. Okay. So anyway, let's get into this month's stuff. Juan says, can we choose any option on the Achieve modules? You mean in terms of like how to set up the way you want to go about it, choosing 4 questions in a row or answering, right? I think, yeah, you can. I mean, yeah, and Joshua confirmed that. Yeah, you can go about completing the activity however you want. I mean, I would prefer just to dive right into the assignment and just start answering questions. Cassandra says, do we have to do an order or spread them out? I'm not sure what you mean. Do you mean the Achieve module or... because the Achieve module will present you with questions one at a time. So I'm not sure. I mean, if you mean do you have to do it in one sitting? No, you can come back the next day. So Joshua's at 76% already. So he's got to go back and finish it up. If I'm not understanding the question, you can feel free to reword it. Okay, so I'm gonna get away from Mcgraw-Hill. You mean first to last? I'm still not sure I understand. Like whatever method you choose, you're going to be presented with questions. I know someone's raising their hand, but I've got a problem with the sound in my computer. So, yeah, the little connector of my earbuds broke off in the machine. So literally I can't hear. I mean, I'm not trying to, I think Cassandra, I think your question, even though I'm not understanding it, I think you'll be fine, right? You understand the gist of how the Achieve modules work. So, yeah, you should be fine. What's the worksheet? Yeah, okay, we're going to get to that now. So let's get to the stuff. Do I have to do the first one, then the second, or can I do different ones? I don't know. Maybe someone else can answer that when you're in the Achieve modules. Can you skip around questions, or do you have to answer? I think it just presents you with questions and you have to answer them. I don't think there's any skipping around in them. So here's the presentation. Welcome, week 1. Should have said that at the beginning. Welcome to English Composition. I'm looking forward to working with all of you this month. Like I said, I had a great group last month, so I'm hoping there's just something in the water, or maybe it's this time of year, but I'm looking forward to another awesome month. Yeah, so you have these overview materials, syllabus, course resources, office hours, etc. You can find that on the FSO platform. I'm not going to show that stuff. Most of it, to be honest, I don't think the syllabus is that important. It's like a generic syllabus for not even the specific things we're going to do this month, but just English class in general. Read it if you're interested, but most of this stuff you can find on your own. The Writing Center, maybe I should highlight real quickly. It is Writing Center at fullsail.com. Okay, so I just typed in the chat. If you're an online student, you'll have a session much like the one I'm holding now, just one-on-one with the tutor. If you're on campus, you can have face-to-face sessions. You do have to book them 24 hours in advance, and they do not operate over the weekend. So, to get in on a Friday, you have to make sure that you contact them at the latest Thursday. But that's something that's open to you. Why do you have to take this class? You can read the little quotation here. You can read the statistic about how important writing is to employers. I don't think I have to convince people of this. I think even those few students who may be coming in this class with resistance or think, why do I have to take English? That's not what I'm here for. I'm here for cinematography. I'm here for music production. I'm here for game design. I think even those people understand that writing and communication is important. Okay. Maybe they've had bad experiences. Maybe they've had a high school class where the teacher made them feel stupid, right? So yeah, maybe they're coming into the class with baggage, which I totally get, but I don't think I have to convince people that writing is important. I always say, show me a person who is successful, who cannot write or communicate well. I mean, really, a CEO, or if you're into video games, some guy who's big in the world of either game design or, again, as a president or CEO in the entertainment field. Yeah, show me people who are who are completely stupid, who can't put thoughts together, right? So yeah, being able to write and speak well is important. Cassandra, some rappers. You know what though? I'm not the most knowledgeable person about hip hop in the world, but I do listen to it. Oh gosh, what was I listening to recently? Whole bunch of stuff. A rapper named No Name. You guys familiar with her? No Name. And then some like old school stuff like Lil Wayne and I don't know, whole bunch of stuff. I don't know. I got on a hip hop kick last week, and I'm always reminded by things like I already knew. Like I didn't need to be reminded, but I already knew the references they make. Like really specific references, like stuff you have to be smart. It's not just a clever turn of phrase, or no, like they mention, I don't know, like famous names from ancient history, or oh gosh, I wish I could remember. Oh, I'm just having a brain freeze. There's one guy who's like freaking brilliant. It's like the whole record is filled with these esoteric references. Yeah, Kendrick Lamar is a good example. That's a really, right? Like, does anybody doubt that he's really smart? Even though Kanye acts like a goofball, he's also really bright. Like his mom was an English professor, I think. And yeah, these are much, much brighter people than I think sometimes popular culture makes them sound. Anyway, but yeah, being able to communicate well is important. So even if you don't think so, you don't believe it. So, okay, so what are we going to work on this month? We are working toward the creation of a single paper. That's right, you only have to write one paper. There's more than one writing assignment, but we are working toward a single essay that we're going to do step by step. Okay? And this visual kind of hints at what we're working toward. Everybody this month is going to produce a short ad analysis essay. Okay? So advertising, it's all around us. Actually, let me get away from this for just 1 second and show you that in week 1. Okay, so for the major activity, this is the first major writing assignment. If we go into the instructions, you will see the list of approved ads. And here they are. Okay, the first 5 are television commercials. The final 3 are print ads. Yes, I've chosen these ads for a couple reasons. One, because a lot of them have interesting things going on. I don't let students choose ads, not because I'm trying to be strict or cruel. It's just that Students sometimes gravitate toward an ad they love, but they don't really know what to say about it. And that's not the point here, right? It doesn't matter whether you love the company, hate the company. Like McDonald's, yeah, their food is fine. I'm not in love with McDonald's though, but I could watch this ad and analyze it. Okay, so sometimes when students choose or want to choose their own ads, they sort of forget that it's about analysis, not about choosing a company that you love. And actually, we're going to practice a little bit because some of you might be thinking, well, I don't know what am I going to say in an ad analysis? Don't worry, we're going to look at some ads and brainstorm together. But right now, I will say, after today's lecture, when we've already looked at several ads and brainstormed ideas together, then go back to this list, watch some of these commercials, look at some of these print ads, and choose an ad not based on how cool you think it is or how much you love Call of Duty or how much you love Big Macs. No, choose an ad where you can see lots of things going on. And again, we're going to practice this. I will say in general, print ads are more challenging than television commercials because print ads, well, they don't have sound, they don't have movement, they don't have typically like characters doing things. Here, let me just open an example. By the way, I keep meaning to get rid of this ad, Chico. Not because I don't like the ad. I think it's a really cool ad, but it's the most challenging ad. I don't know why I keep... So I don't mean to scare people away, but don't choose the Chico ad if you have no idea what to say about it. Oh, Cassandra, it's not that I literally don't like McDonald's. It's just that I'm not like in love with the company. And that ad, which sort of, like most ads try to sell a positive view of themselves, right? They want positive associations with the company and the product. And so McDonald's sells itself as something that I'm not sure I entirely believe. But yeah, I don't hate McDonald's. But okay, here's a print ad, right? So print ads are challenging because what could you possibly say? We're gonna practice so you can learn what things to look for. But yeah, with print ads, you have to be comfortable discussing visuals. You have to be comfortable looking at a static image and being able to pinpoint things. But okay, I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. Right now, you just need to know there's a list of ads. Yes, Joshua, we're going to pick one of these 8 ads to write about, and you're going to use it all month. So that's why I say hold off until the lecture is over, because once this lecture is over, I promise you, you'll have a much better sense of, oh, okay, so these are the sorts of things I'm going to have to look for. And then make a choice based on, because here's what happens. People love Apple. They have their iPhone, or they love iPhones or iPads, and they choose this Apple television commercial. But if you're painted in a corner where you don't know what to say about the ad, right? I mean, I'll help. I'm not going to leave you hanging. But ideally, you should choose an ad that you're comfortable writing about. So let's start talking about ad analysis and what to look for. Okay. So yeah, we've already talked about this. We're ultimately answering the question, how do advertisers persuade their audiences? And here's something I want you to keep in mind right from the get-go. Ad agencies are paid millions of dollars to come up with these ads. So no detail is accidental. They don't just make stuff up on the spot. They just don't do it on a whim. Again, so much money is being spent that no detail is accidental. So for this assignment that we're working toward, a short ad analysis essay, the other thing, keep in mind 3, okay, the number 3, because I'm going to repeat it all month. You need to be able to spot 3 specific choices that the ads creators have made. Okay, I just said that no detail is accidental, so it's really about spotting 3 details in the ad. 3 important, meaningful details that you can write about. And again, we're going to practice that in just a second. Josh has seen the Call of Duty ad. Yeah, by the way, half the class chooses Call of Duty. I don't have a problem with that at all. But yeah, it's I guess if you put up a video game option, especially at this school, there are probably going to be a lot of people. That's not a slam, by the way. I have a PlayStation 4, a PlayStation 3, a PlayStation 2. Used to have a PSP, broke. Used to have a Nintendo DS, but I gave it to my son. Okay. This I'm going to fly through. This is a visual that describes the writing process. It is a circular process. So we begin by brainstorming ideas. And by the way, every week in this class is sort of devoted to a separate stage in the writing process. So brainstorming, researching, investigating, that'll be week 2. Organizing your material, so that's also going to be week 2. You'll create an outline in week 2. Then the actual creation, the composing, the writing, that's week 3. And then getting feedback from both me and your peers and revising. And by the way, this is a process that most people go through, not just for writing, but for just about anything. If you're a filmmaker, if you're a songwriter, you don't just get it all out in one shot, right? That might be how you begin, but you definitely look at the stuff, maybe reorganize or rethink about it, revise it. Okay, so this is a pretty circular process that all creative people go through. Yeah, if you're talking, Josh, if you're talking about the Call of Duty ad, there are 2 celebrities in the ad, Kobe Bryant and Jimmy Kimmel. So this slide just repeats what I just said. Separate stage in the writing process is devoted to each week of the class. So week 1, we're here, brainstorming, which we're going to do right now. Actually, I'm going to go back to that slide because I have these out of order. Okay, I said you have to identify 3 things, right? And I'm going to keep hammering home that number 3 because it's going to be important all month. Why? Because we are working toward a 5-paragraph essay. And I know some of you already know what a 5-paragraph essay is, even though most students, this is the first time they're hearing it. But by 5-paragraph essay, I mean a classic essay. So we have an introduction paragraph, okay? It's going to be somewhat general. A conclusion paragraph, okay? Also somewhat general, brings the essay to a close. And in between, you have your 3 body paragraphs, your 3 middle paragraphs. And that's where the meat of your ideas appear. The meat of your thinking appears. And yeah, you need 3 ideas for each of those 3 middle paragraphs of your 5-paragraph essay. So that's why I keep hammering home the idea 3. You're going to have to find 3 things in your ad to write about. Now, what sort of things should you be looking out for? I think they can fall under 2 general categories. Formal qualities, which is kind of like technical stuff. So issues related to color, sound, music, camera work, and so on. Okay, or thematic qualities. These are non-technical things. So theme, motif, character, story, symbol, audience, basically all that non-technical stuff. So I want you to think about this right now. So you can try to spot technical things or non-technical things. But let's take a look at an ad right now. If I could get to it. Hold on. No, it's not that one. This one. Okay, so this is an ad for Jeep. I should point out you don't see both halves of the image at the same time. They're just showing the visual trick. You only see what's on the left. Okay, so there's an animal image in the middle. It looks like a giraffe's head. And then above and below the image, it says Jeep. You might not be able to make out the text, but it says see whatever you want to see. And it's written upside down, probably to encourage you to sort of turn your head and notice the visual trick, which is looked at one way, it looks like a giraffe's head. Looked at another way, it looks like a penguin. Let me quickly just show you, just for fun. This is part of a series. So Jeep also has another ad that looks like this. So looked at one way, it's an elephant's head. Looked at another way, it's a turkey. And here's another one. Looked at one way, it's a deer head. And looked at another way, it's a seal. Okay. Now, even though you don't have any experience analyzing ads, even though maybe you're in a bit of a panic, like, what am I going to say about an ad? What should I look for? Just using your guts. Okay, I've already said that. Think about technical issues. Think about non-technical issues. What are some things that just stand out to you in this image? Even if you're not sure of the reason why. That's an important thing too. Analysis, we're seeking to answer the question why. Okay, so why this? Why that? Or why does the ad use this? Why does the ad do that? So what are some things that immediately stand out? You're not sure exactly what you could possibly write about, but we just got to identify 3 things. Who wants to just go ahead and use the chat? You don't have to have an answer for why it's interesting. What stands out to you in this ad? Okay, Mason says color choice. Yeah. And by the way, I'll say color is important. I don't know if I should stay there and we should talk about that more, or if maybe other people want to jump in. I would say, like, yeah, background color, but also like its quality, right? It's got this kind of fabric, textile quality. Let's stay there because maybe other people are struggling to come up with ideas. But Mason's already given us one good one. So remember, I just said we're trying to answer the question why. That's what analysis gets to. So why this color? Why this kind of fabric, textile, background? Right? If I just said that no details accidental, I mean, why isn't this just a plain solid black or blue or pink? Why has it made this choice to use this sort of beige khaki color with this fabric-like feel to it? Mason says there's not much to distract you from the message they want you to see. Okay, that's absolutely true. But I would make the argument then, okay, why not just use a plain white background? If it's strictly from being able to see the image and the wording. Not disagreeing with you. It's definitely a minimalist image. But I'm going to push you guys to think, again, you're the ads creator. You're the agency that's being paid millions of dollars. Why in the world would you give it this khaki kind of fabric look? Why in the world would you do that? Okay, good, Josh. Yeah, Mason, look, is this making sense, Mason? I mean, it's not that I disagree with anything you just said, but it has to be more specific than it's comforting or that it helps you see the image. It's not that those are wrong ideas, but yeah, Josh, it says safari, rugged, outback, okay? Because what does this color and quality, fabric quality remind you of? It reminds you perhaps of burlap, of canvas, right? It's like a canvas tent. Or quite literally, the color is khaki, but also like khaki clothing, right? It's dusty, it's sandy, it's an earth tone. Right, Juan. It connects with the spirit of the brand. Does this make sense to people, by the way? Because these are the things you have to notice in your chosen ad. And I'm going to push because, again, everything that Mason said was absolutely correct, but it's got to be more specific, right? It has to be specific to this ad. Cassandra shouts out giraffe. I don't know if that's the next thing we should talk about. But yeah, okay, animal imagery. It's staring us in the face, right? Like, why isn't it a reversible image of, I don't know, a vehicle, like a transformer? Looked at one way, right? Starts out like a car and turns into a robot. Or looked at one way, it's, I don't know, a flagpole, and looked at another way, it's a candy cane. These are terrible. It's the best I can come up with off the top of my head. But why this animal imagery, right? This visual trick of looked at one way it's a giraffe, looked at another way it's a penguin. Kind of, I think we've sort of answered that question already, right? What do we think of when we think of Jeep? Changing your perspective, Josh says, because Jeep is selling 4x4 trucks, they're trying to connect with the safari style. Right. Like when we hear the word Jeep, we immediately think, yeah, safari, off-roading, maybe the military, but basically, and here's the funny thing. Obviously, with Jeeps, the majority of them, at least in this country, are not being sold for safari. They're being sold for people to pick up their children from school, to haul groceries. But the image of Jeep is yeah, adventure, right? So it's not coincidence that's using an earth tone, this beige, sandy, right? That reminds you of sand. That it's using this fabric style background that reminds you of canvas, of burlap, or that it's using animal imagery, and not just dogs or cats or parakeets, right? But like exotic animals. And by the way, maybe I should give a sneak peek. Here, let me. I know I go back and forth a lot. Drive some students crazy, but I can't stop. Here's a finished essay. I wrote this one. Every week, you always have models to accompany your assignments. So this one you don't see until week 3 because this is the full essay, and you won't write the essay until week 3. I jokingly gave myself a name, Jane, a student. Get it? Jane, a student. But here's what we're working toward. Okay, maybe it will be useful because I'm not going to read this out loud, but you could at least kind of see what we're working toward. So here's my introduction paragraph, right? And I make an opening move where, yes, I talk about Jeep. Jeep, the well-known brand, practically markets itself with its reputation for ruggedness. I think someone in the chat said that, rugged, independence, and adventure. I find a nifty quote, but here I riff on Jeep for a while, right? The Jeep spirit and the loyalty that this car inspires is hardwired into our consciousness. One can easily picture a driver behind the wheel of a Jeep, downshifting around a snaking mountain bend, or kicking up dust through the sun-baked Australian outback, or zooming past zebras grazing the Serengeti, right? That's Jeep. May not be what we actually use Jeeps for, but that's the image. Okay, that's the classic image that this ad is playing with. By the way, and we're going to get to this later in the session, I apologize for jumping around so much. But the final sentence of your first paragraph is what's going to be called your thesis. Okay, and this is where you list your 3 things that you spotted. So as you can see, I chose for my essay color, which we've already identified, imagery, that animal imagery that Cassandra mentioned, and for my third thing, I focused on the tagline. Okay, where is it? See whatever you want to see. Not just explaining the tagline, because that's not analysis. Anybody can explain what the tagline means. But no, connecting it to like the Jeep image again. Okay. But these are things you have to do as well. You're going to have to spot 3 interesting, important aspects of your chosen ad. Is this starting to make sense to people? Like what we're going to have to start looking for? I see some car discussions going on. I've never owned a Jeep. I certainly wouldn't mind one. Yeah, if you're curious, though, this is what we're aiming for. This is like a 3-page paper. And this is what we were building toward in week 3. But right now, you're just choosing an ad and brainstorming about it. Because week 1 is about finding those 3 ideas. Okay? Let's take a look at another ad. And same thing. Just start shouting out things that stand out to you. Don't worry if you're not sure what they mean. This is an older ad, if you haven't guessed. It's from the early 70s. But I still like to use it because, 1, there's a lot of things going on in this ad. And 2, this ad could exist today. There are retro-style ads. Don't know if anybody remembers the Jose Cuervo ad from like maybe 5 years ago. It was supposedly set on the 1975 tour jet for the Rolling Stones. And it's really playful with how it recreates the 1970s. So, yeah, this ad could be a retro ad, but it's actually from the early 70s. What are some things we notice? Okay, Juan says rebel spirit. Where do we see that? Like if I had to say, where do we get that feel of like, okay, yeah, the phrase at the top, right? Your mother wouldn't like it. What wouldn't your mother like, though? By the way, people can still shout out other things as well. We don't have to. I'll go down this path that we're going down now, but other things that people want to show out. Josh says, not wearing a bra, I'm kind of lost. Yeah, no, okay. See, I'm trying not to give you answers, but yes, the ad wants to create an image, right? So your mother wouldn't like it. What wouldn't your mother like? This is your stereotypical, old-fashioned traditional mom. She would not approve of this car, and she would not approve of this woman. And yes, she would not approve of this woman because of things like she's not wearing a bra. Because what does that suggest? She's independent. She's free-spirited. Again, this is the early 1970s, so we're talking about I don't want to call it the height, but definitely with the feminist movement in full swing. Yeah, there's a definite connection being made. And I hope people can notice that the ad is obviously targeting men. Your mother wouldn't like it, but here it's being used kind of like, yeah, dangerously, but positive in a dangerous way. Like it's trying to get men to, well, as a couple of you said, be rebellious. What's the cliche of men going through a middle-age crisis where they suddenly need a sports car and a younger woman? Right? So it's appealing to a certain kind of man who wants the image of this car, of this woman, who wants the product that his mother wouldn't approve of. Okay? But But yeah, what else can we notice here? And think back to like either technical things or non-technical things, because even though yes, there is a sense of rebelliousness, this is difficult to explain, but sometimes it is a fine line, and students can sometimes struggle to see it between just describing the ad and explaining it, which is not quite analysis, and actually pinpointing specific things going on in the ad. Again, put yourself in the shoes of someone who works for an ad agency, someone who is deliberately making choices in this ad. Okay, so Josh says lighting. Lighting was good and maybe opportunistic for the photographer. Okay, but just stay with lighting. Like, it's not review. You don't have to say like the lighting is good, I give it a thumbs up. Lighting is important here. So is color. Okay, like how do we describe either the lighting or color, and why does it fit this ad? Okay, we've already established this is an ad that's sort of playing on the idea that this is an attractively dangerous choice for men. Okay, the pixels were much different back then. Okay, but let's not get too. Let's stay focused on, again, putting yourself in the mind of someone who actually creates ads. Why isn't this daytime? Why isn't the car blue? Why isn't this just a standard photograph? Why is it lit this way with these colors? Okay, Josh is on the track here. Dramatic. Juan says soft warm colors in contrast with the red car. Spotlight. Okay, so yeah, there are a lot of good things going there. Spotlight, yeah, the lighting definitely is kind of acting like a spotlight. But here's the thing that I think a lot of people maybe are missing. These are like sensual colors, right? These oranges, these reds. This is, yes, it's nightlife. Oops. Here, let me get back to the full image of the car, right? Does that make sense? Like the overall image is sensual, sultry, languid. Does this make sense? Like it's not just a crystal clear, completely bright, standard, realistic photograph. Like it's shot a certain way. It wants to be lurid, might be too strong an adjective, but you know what I'm getting at here? Like these are warm, sensual colors. These are sensuous colors. Can people see that, or I'm having a difficult time getting through? Okay. Yeah, and Cassandra in specific, don't be too literal. That's the thing. Interpret. Okay? So just as we did with the G-pad, it's not just, oh, well, this color makes the word stand out better. Yeah, that's true, but lots of backgrounds could have been used. Or here, what did someone say earlier? That the lighting makes it for a better image quality. Okay, it might be true, but that could apply to lots of ads. Like, why is this specific ad doing these things? So yeah, I would say we have three things here if we want: color and or lighting, either discussed separately or together. Someone mentioned the setting, like the movie theater. And I don't know if you can make it out. Here there's a poster, Marlon Brando, and the title is cut off, but then there's this little placard back here, Last Tango in Paris. I don't know if we have any film buffs here, but Last Tango in Paris. Like, yeah, that's a film that's contemporary to the time, but that's also not accident. Remember when I said no detail is accidental? They could have picked lots of movie theaters that were showing any film from 1972 or 1973. No, it's Last Tango in Paris. Why? Because Last Tango in Paris, even though it was an Academy Award nominated movie, even though it's considered one of the great movies, it is incredibly sexually frank. I mean, even by 2018 standards, this movie is intense. Like, really intense. Cassandra says, now the woman fits in, the colors and her combined make sense. Sensuality is important. Yes. Right? Let me stick with the setting thing. Like, it's not that listen, it's not an adult movie theater, okay? But it's not coincidence that what film is playing? This film that was controversial at the time. Okay, it's creating an overall image. The woman, the movie, the setting. Okay, it's not broad daylight. You can't even quite tell if it's like the it's not even the dead of night. It's like that in-between hour, maybe. Okay, so all of this is creating an effect, which is one of, yeah, like danger, rebelliousness. Right, your mother would also disapprove of you being around this area at night or seeing this movie. Okay, it's all connecting. Yeah, good, Cassandra. Dusk. Josh said it too. Sometimes I can't think of the right word. So dusk is not accidental. So yeah, we have three things we could talk about. We could talk about lighting and or color. We could talk about overall setting. Someone pointed out that there's this guy staring, right? Is he staring at the car or the woman? Maybe both. But that perhaps isn't accidental either. I don't think you can write an entire paragraph about how there's some dude staring, but a discussion of overall setting, the theater, the passerby was looking, and yeah, where we started. Okay, someone mentioned the woman. There's a direct connection between the woman and the car. Okay, they're both standing next to each other or placed next to each other, and they're front and center, right? Like it's a layout issue. What's front and center? Not just the product, the car, but also this woman. So there's a link between the two. They're both things that your mother would not like. So is this helping? Are we starting to get like what we're supposed to be looking for? Remember, you just got to spot three things. So here you got them. You could focus solely on the woman. You could focus on the woman in the car, the connection between them. You could discuss overall setting, why this setting. You could discuss lighting and color. Okay, so there are a lot of things going on here. And my point is, it's not accidental. Okay, the longer we spend time looking at an ad or thinking about an ad, the more things we notice. Now, the final one is, and actually this link doesn't work anymore, so give me a second. I should have had this set up in advance, but I need to go to YouTube and specifically look for Diet Coke, Tall, Dark, and Handsome. Okay, now I'm going to put the link in the chat because, again, my sound isn't working. Usually I would crank up the volume, and that was usually loud enough for people to hear. But I'm just going to give you the link. Okay, so hold on. Where is it? Share. Okay, so if you can it's only 15 seconds long. So if you could click on that link, watch it. And same thing. Come back to the chat and start typing away things that you notice. I think that's about 15 seconds. Okay, Juan mentions music. Yes, music is absolutely important here. I'm going to let it roll even without sound. Just people who are watching this, the recording of it, just go to YouTube and type in Diet Coke, Tall, Dark, and Handsome because I can't give you the link through a recording. Okay. In here, I'll let it play one more time without sound. Okay, music. Let's start there. Yes, absolutely, music is important. Why? Again, analysis seeks to answer the question why. Okay, yeah, Josh mentioned something else very important. But let's stick with music. Why this music? Okay, why isn't it heavy metal? Why isn't it country? Why isn't it a straightforward rock song? Why this music? Okay. I feel like people are still answering something to talk about something else. Juan says the music gets the sexual point across. Cassandra says makes it sexy and appealing. Yes, right? Because that waka waka music. Isn't that a kind of stereotypical sound that we associate with either cheesy romantic scenes in movies? Some students have said adult films. But either way, it's sort of like a send up of sex music, right? Mason says sexy jazz type music. Yeah, I would say it's a little bit more on the comedic side. Like it's a humorous ad. Do we get that? That the ad is being played partly for laughs? Right. Good, Cassandra. They poured it slowly, essentially. And something someone mentioned earlier, which is super important. Um, yeah, like legs that keep going and going. Who made the original point? Josh. He says it's the panning. Okay. Uh, Panning up like on long legs or something. Yeah, right. I mean, let's just watch that panning again. Again, where do we see this? We don't see it with soft drinks. We know it from movies. Usually, it's almost always the woman, okay, who is scanned from top to bottom. Actually, does anybody still remember the movie The Naked Gun, or is that too dated a reference? It's a comedy film from about, oh, I don't know, 30 years ago. Uh, anyway, there's a funny scene in there with Priscilla Presley. She plays the romantic female lead. And quite literally, when she first appears, the camera starts at her ankles and keeps going up and up and up. But here's the thing: the legs never end. Like they literally never end. Like I think her kneecaps appear twice, and it's a send up of what we've seen in movies, right? Because there really are scenes not played for laughs where the woman's body is scanned. Right? It's sort of like a reverse striptease. It starts at the bottom, works its way up. Um, this commercial is playing with that, okay? Because it's not a person's body that's being scanned centrally, it's the glass of Diet Coke. By the way, you guys are doing awesome with this one. You already noticed music and that panning, that slow panning. How about a third thing? Is there a third thing we could mention? We already got music, we already got the camera work, okay? So we've already got two things. A third? This one's challenging because it is a pretty minimalist ad. Okay, but we need a third thing. Mason says the gray background to match the color of the Coke bottle. Yeah, we could probably talk about color. I'm not sure it yields the most fascinating discussion, but certainly the choice to, for example, we have kind of a single tone color, but it helps make the red of Coke here and on the bottle. And I've never noticed that before, but it's not just Coke; it's the words "okay." Um, Gray because it's depressing. I don't think it's that. I think it's to match the color of the traditional Diet Coke bottle, which is silver. And I think it also gives the ad a kind of sleek, modern look, which probably Diet Coke. Here's the thing. Correct me if I'm wrong. Diet Coke is aimed at women. Doesn't mean that men can't drink it. I drink it sometimes. But Coke Zero is specifically aimed at men because for some reason men don't drink things called diet, but they'll drink Coca-Cola Zero. So if we buy that this is probably aimed mostly at women. Um, yeah, I mean, maybe there's something about the minimalist appeal here. Okay. I don't know. Like I'm trying to make things up on the spot. I'm not sure if they're even accurate or not, but it's like so slimmed down, like literally, like the aesthetic choices. Um, yeah, like silver, slender. But I don't even think you have to necessarily reach that far. I think even the language, tall, dark, and handsome, because someone else mentioned that earlier too. Okay, so that's fine. It doesn't have to be something super interpretive. I'm not asking you to come up with like deep coding or deep symbols. That's not what this is about. But yeah, the language, right? It's a play on words because we usually think of the stereotypical handsome man as being tall, dark, and handsome. Here, it's reversing all that. It's not a person, it's a tall glass of Diet Coke. It's not a woman who's being scanned from top to bottom, because you rarely see men being filmed that way in movies, unless they're specifically trying to make a joke. But yeah, that's being reversed, okay? So, yeah, we have three things we can talk about here. Now, I try to keep these sessions to an hour, so I'm going to race through my final points. Where are we? I can probably skip most of this. Here, let me show what you're working on. Okay, so the first major assignment is to complete a worksheet. My machine is slowing down. Okay, so we're in the 1.5 activity. And you can read all this on your own, okay? Instructions. And here's the list of ads. But here we go, okay? By the way, here, click this link to view an example of a worksheet. So if we click on it, we can see a previous student who has completed the worksheet about the Diet Coke ad. The Diet Coke is not one of your ads to choose from because, call me cynical, but I think a lot of people would just borrow the ideas already here. But you can see how she has filled out this worksheet. Okay. For example, what is the title of the ad? For what company or organization was the ad created? What creative team worked on the ad? She didn't fully answer that question. She only answered the first part. I'm not going to read every prompt, but I do want to highlight a couple things. Describe the ad as if you're explaining its visuals and other details to someone who has never seen it before. Okay, so you're going to describe the ad, summarize it with some care. But some students just only answer the bolded part. But it goes on. Be sure to identify specific details that stand out, such as colors, symbols, space, lighting, sound effects, music, camera. Okay, so it's not just summarizing. It's also noticing specific things. Okay, because in the next question, you have to explain those things. So she's already identified music, camera, and she explains it here, right? Everything in the ad reminds me of a sex scene in a movie. The music has a sexy vibe. The words could be used to describe a good-looking man. The camera even moves up the glass like it might move up a person's body. Okay. The next questions are pretty straightforward. But number 8 sometimes confuses people. It says, list 3 possible tactics, techniques based on the details discussed above that you could focus on for your essay. This is just a fancy way of saying list the 3 things you've noticed. Okay, so in this case, it's music, language. Here she says minimalist approach, but later she changes that to camera work. Okay, so, but we have to explain thesis statements. That's the last thing I want to cover. So I do need to go back to my presentation briefly. Okay, so the thesis is like the roadmap to the paper. It tells readers where the paper is heading. All of you need a working thesis statement before you can move on to the next stage, okay? Because next week we are going to build upon this assignment. And all of you need a working thesis. And the thesis is where you list those 3 things that you've noticed. And you put it in a single sentence. So here are some examples. Here's the Jeep thesis. Through the use of simple color, playful imagery, and a double meaning tagline that reinforces theme, the See Whatever You Want to See ad appeals to the inner adventure inside everyone to unlock a hidden enthusiasm for Jeep. Here's the Diet Coke. The Diet Coke Tall, Dark, and Handsome ad uses sexually charged language, that's 1, seductive music, 2, and slow camera movement, 3, to convince sophisticated women to buy into the idea that drinking Diet Coke is just as fulfilling as a heteronormative romance. Fancy word for just a relationship between opposite genders. Here's even a more common sense way to think about it. Let me open up a blank document real quickly. Okay, so essentially your thesis is doing this. The blank ad uses blank, blank, and blank in order to, okay, this is the format. So the McDonald's ad uses, then your 3 things come. The Call of Duty ad uses 1, 2, 3. The Jeep ad, and you can reverse the order of things. Like my Jeep ad, I think first lists things, right, through the use of color, blah, 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 the Jeep ad, and so on. So yeah, you can rearrange the structure a little bit, but essentially this is what your thesis must do. Because here's the thing, you need 3 strong points to move on, not just to next week's activity, but ultimately for your essay. Because again, here's the essay, right? Here's a completed essay. And as you can see, the introduction paragraph ends with my thesis. Color, imagery, that animal imagery, and the Jeep ad. And these become the topics of my 3 body paragraphs. So here's my paragraph on the ad's use of color, right, where I talk about the Jeep's choice to use a beige earth tone with a fabric or textile quality to it. Here is my paragraph on the ad's use of imagery, right? So I explain that animal imagery. And finally, here's a paragraph about the ad's tagline. Okay, so this is what we're working toward. But you need to have those three solid thesis points, okay? The 3 points that will appear in your thesis. And the worksheets ask you to take 2 stabs at it in number 9. The idea here is that maybe one thesis will be a little bit better than the other, or maybe you've spotted lots of different things, because in some of these ads there are 6, 7 interesting things going on. So you might have them spread across 2 thesis statements, and I'll help you choose what I think are maybe the 3 strongest. Or you might do what she does here, which is she's got a great thesis here. Okay, she's got her 3 points: music, camera work, and language. Here, she doesn't really have a thesis. Okay, it only mentions one thing: minimalist design. That's not a fully realized thesis. So I would tell her, this looks awesome. Go with this. Okay, you're ready to move forward. But this is not a thesis. So, but that's okay. You got it right here. But the idea is if you take 2 stabs at it, maybe one will be worded better than the other. The final prompt sometimes confuses students too. A lot of wording. I didn't create this worksheet. I'm not trying to pass the blame, but I would have made some of these questions much clearer. It's just asking for research ideas. Okay. Because in week 2, you're going to have to start doing research. In general, your research is going to work to support your 3 thesis points. So for the Jeep ad, I might talk about how I will do research into color theory. I will do research into color theory and find something about the use of earth tones. Okay, because the Jeep ad uses an earth tone, a color that seems to be connected to nature. Okay, but yeah, the worksheets, I basically graded on effort. But yeah, thesis is the most important to me. Everybody has to have a working thesis. Now, let's say you're struggling. You've chosen an ad, you don't have any idea what to say. Not because you haven't tried, but because you're struggling. I'll help you, okay? I don't just sit on the sidelines. I'll give you a list of 6 or 7 interesting things going on in the ad, encourage you to choose 3. But I want you to mostly find those things for yourself. So think back to this lecture, think back to the 3 ads we looked at: the Jeep ad, the convertible car ad, and the Diet Coke ad. Do the same thing with your chosen advertisements, okay? Again, and look at these ads, and choose an ad where you already see things going on. Don't choose an ad because you love the company, because you might get stuck with an ad you don't know what to say about. Print ads are more challenging than commercials, I think. Not trying to scare anybody away from print ads. It's just that, yeah, it works best if you are already comfortable talking about visuals, right? So here's one for Altoids. Right? So if you're struggling because you have no idea what 3 things to say about this ad, maybe you should take a look at one of the television commercials. Okay, print ads, you have to be comfortable discussing visuals. Okay, so that's really what I want to cover. So questions, comments, concerns about the class as a whole, about ad analysis, about anything, the first assignment, that brainstorming worksheet. I do feel like I rushed through the worksheet a little bit, so I apologize for that. It's just that, I don't know, we went a little bit long. I usually keep it exactly to an hour. If you are comfortable with what we've gone over, I'm not going to force you to stay here. You are allowed to go enjoy the rest of your evening, and I thank you so much for attending. I'll see you next week at the same time. But I will hang out a bit, okay? So if people have questions or comments. I hope I scared... it's not my intention to scare people away from the Chico ad. But I honestly keep trying to get rid of it. I always forget. The good news is the students who do choose it usually do a good job, because they think, I'm going to show him. He says it's too difficult. Well, I'm going to tackle it. And yeah, usually they do a good job. Like they find interesting things to say or important things to highlight in the ad. So there's a print ad. What's the other print ad? Oh, this one. For the World Wildlife Fund. Right, so Yeah, I'm not trying to scare people away from print ads. It's just, I don't know. It's like one or two students a month chooses a print ad, and then I have to be the mean instructor and say, "Why did you choose this ad? You don't seem very comfortable talking about it." Juan says, "Are all student assignments due Sunday?" No, some are due on Friday. Okay, that weekly journal where you have to summarize the week's readings and this lecture, that's due on Friday. And the first Achieve module, that interactive grammar module over at Mcgraw-Hill, that's due on Friday as well. The first major assignment, that brainstorming worksheet, is due on Sunday. Okay, but it should not take that long to write two short or medium-ish summary paragraphs of the readings in the lecture. The Achieve module I was doing in real time. You saw that I got to 6% without batting an eye. So Cassandra, these two. So here, let me get out of here. Journal response, where you write two paragraphs, one that summarizes the assigned readings, one that summarizes this lecture, and then that interactive module over at Mcgraw-Hill. Right. And then the brainstorming worksheet. And again, you have an example. And make sure you use this provided worksheet. Anybody who's taken the class before. Some instructors are using a newer worksheet that I don't like one bit, so I don't use it. But last month, for the first time, I saw students handing in these worksheets that I was like, what is this? Don't do that, okay? Use the worksheet that's provided. It looks like questions are slowing down, so I'm going to stop the recording. So people are watching at home, you're done.